Fantasy Draft. Let's get it.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Thursday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listener watch to get your day going the right way. Special shout out to all you everydayers, all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord as well. Going to be a fun show today, joined by my good buddy Leif Thulin, and we're going to be doing a fantasy draft today. I'll explain that in a minute, but before I do, I need to offer a mea culpa on behalf of Andy. On yesterday's show, in the second segment, Andy was talking about teams that are kind of like in a holding pattern until people make their NBA draft decisions. And he talked about Maxime Reynaud at North Carolina, getting Maxime Reynaud and Henry Vasar mixed up. And it was a whole thing. So anyway, just if that confused you, unconfuse yourself. Maxime Reynaud is not going to North Carolina. That's not a real thing. Okay, here's what Leif and I are doing today. We are going to draft an 8-man team, starters, and a 3-man bench using players in the 2025 NBA draft, at least guys that are in as of when we record right now. So Boogie Fland, not counting him. I don't think I'd take him anyway, but that's what we're doing. And we will go back and forth. It's not going to be snake draft, just to make it easier to understand. So Leif will go, then me, then Leif, then me, etc., etc., etc. Now, what we agreed upon is we're going to draft a team not to play in the NBA, but they would be playing college basketball. That's the team we're looking for here. Also, it is limited to players that were in college last year, no international prospects. And that's that. Leif, any other caveats I should add, or did I hit them all?
I think you hit them all, and it makes it interesting because at the top of the draft, there's some guys that were, productive, but more seen as draft potential guys, namely Ace Bailey, who put up numbers, but it wasn't necessarily college basketball conducive to success. So I'm curious to see where he'll go and what direction we're heading, because, we could just make an All-American list if it was just college basketball, but some of these guys are probably better basketball players than the guys who are All-Americans. So that's the fun of it, and I'm excited.
It's funny you bring up Ace Bailey, because I thought the exact same about him. So I'm now very interested to see where he's going to go in this draft. Because yes, this is about, I want a college basketball team that can win today. And I guess that is one other thing we should say. It's got to, our starting five has to be a viable starting five. So we're not going to draft like 5 point guards or 5 Kaman Malawatches or something like that. So that's the other stipulation we should make. I love when we do drafts like this, that we got to lay out all the parameters of what's about to happen. All right, Leif, let's not belabor the point anymore. Who are you taking to start this draft?
I'm going to take the best player in college basketball that can play 1 through 5. So I got a lot of roster flexibility coming up. I'm going Cooper Flagg, and we'll see where the draft takes me. So I'll play him at my 3 or my 4. Essentially, I'm getting a guy who can score 20 any given night, be the best defender on any given team, and facilitate as well. So I'm pretty thrilled with that pick. I wondered if we had snaked it, not to get too sidetracked, how differently the rosters would come out. But I think that Cooper Flagg is the easy answer regardless of the parameters of the draft.
That's a great point. It's funny I have found that for the podcast format, snake drafting makes it hard to follow and keep track of if you're listening or watching. So that's why I like to do it this way. But yeah, that would be a really interesting dynamic if it was different. Also, Leif, we were laughing pre-show because we got a breaking news alert on our phones on Tuesday of this week that said, breaking news, the Mavericks are drafting Cooper Flagg number 1 overall and will not entertain trade offers. So shocking, Leif. I couldn't believe it that the Mavs are going to take Cooper Flagg just as you did. But you know what, Mavs, you've already made some. Here's why they have to say they're not going to entertain trade offers, because they're terrible at trades. Clearly, we've seen it, and they got to be smarter than that. All right, Leif, let's go with my first pick. I got to go Dylan Harper. It makes a ton of sense for me. We talked about Ace Bailey as well. This is a clear and definitive choice of Dylan Harper over Ace Bailey for me. I like him in my backcourt, similar to what you said for Cooper Flagg. I'll see how my roster plays out and if I want him at the 1 or the 2. But man, just everything he's going to be able to do, his ability to get where he wants to go on the floor. I know for me, I've been a little bit worried. I'm curious your thoughts as somebody that is a draft guy, like where this matters. But I do have some concern over the Rutgers had 2 top 5 draft picks and was awful side of it. But I'm all in on Dylan Harper. I love it, and I'm glad to welcome him to Team Shade.
I mean, Dylan Harper in the big games early in the season showed up, and I don't think he, with a lot of talent next to him, would really struggle in these situations. So I think you surround him with better shooting, better interior play, and you'd get the best out of him. He's such an amazing finisher. He's about 68% at the rim, so which is like 90th percentile or better, and that's usually reserved for catching and dunking. Like it's the lob threat, the dunker spot, and he's a point guard. And then not to mention he's 87th percentile as a catch and shoot guy. So these are some draft numbers for you guys. His question is, can he shoot off the dribble? That's what makes point guards dangerous. So that's the question as a draft guy. He's firmly my number 2 on the NBA draft side of things. But I do have a point guard that I'm going to be taking here at my second pick that is not maybe a hot commodity in the NBA draft, but I'm going with Walter Clayton Jr. because we're drafting college basketball, and he could be the best player on a national championship team. And that was my claim all throughout the season. From January onward, I was all in on the Gators because they had a great backcourt, and I loved their front court. But Walter Clayton Jr. was the engine that made it work, knocks down shots, and he also played the 2 guard earlier in his career. So you play him with Flagg, and you can have either facilitate and handle the ball, either can score with or without the ball, and I think I have the cornerstones for my franchise.
Dude, I love you using the parameters of our draft here to land somebody that otherwise would not have gone right here. Really, really nice stuff there. I like it. Great call. With my second pick, I am going to bypass Ace Bailey, and I'm going with VJ Edgecombe.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, I'm shocked.
I know. I'm changing Trey Johnson. I battled back.
Come on, no.
I've battled back and forth between the 2. I really want Trey Johnson. I think, and here's why, Leif. Here's why I changed mid-thought. Is because VJ came along during the season, but I think it is in that same vein as what we said about Ace Bailey, is like it's not as fully there yet. Whereas with Trey, it's there 100% already. Yes, I'm sticking with that. I want Trey. I keep battling back and forth in my head. I want Trey Johnson. Give me Trey Johnson. And that means I'm going to move Dylan Harper, keep him at my 1, Trey Johnson at my 2, maybe my 3, depending on who else I get. That's my go.
Okay, I like that. I was hoping to get Trey Johnson a little bit later. So that frustrates me in the drafting perspective. However, it does open up the draft board quite a bit because we're drafting a starting lineup here, and there's a lot of bigs on the board. But I'm going to go with the guy that I don't think is necessarily going to be in the hottest topic here, that I think was a first-team All-American that got snubbed, that I think carried the largest load of any player in collegiate basketball this season. I'm going with Cam Jones. Cam Jones from Marquette. And I think if you take pressure off of him like he had when he had Tyler Kolek and he was just told, hey, go get buckets, and he led Marquette in scoring 3 years in a row, he can do that. He also was one of the best creators for his team because of his tremendously sized, like Atlas carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And now you got Cooper Flagg and Walter Clayton. Those guys aren't necessarily great defensively, but I do have Cooper Flagg, and I've got a couple picks in mind that can shore up the defense, and he can shoot the ball. His number doesn't look great, but he shot the ball very well when he was a 2 guard. Now the pressure's relieved off of him with both Flagg and Clayton. I got 3 initiators, so I'm going with a snubbed first-team All-American. I was considering Trey Johnson with that pick, though.
Dude, that backcourt of Cam Jones and Walter Clayton is absurd right now. Leif, that's a great pick. Yeah, I mean, Cam Jones with all his positional size, with what he brings to the table with like I love the thought of when he doesn't have to Atlas carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, what that unlocks and opens up for him in terms of efficiency and everything. My goodness, I love it, dude. That's a great pick. Okay, there's our first 5 picks in the book. We're going to turn the table, and we don't really have a front court much going unless you look at Cooper Flagg. Who are we going to add in our front courts? That's where we're headed with the conversation and the draft coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Wayfair. The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside. It's glorious, and I love it, which means that it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space, which I literally need to do at my house right now. My wife and I just cleaned up our back patio, and we're like, man, we need a bunch of stuff. Wayfair is the place to turn, man. They'll take care of you. So whether you're doing that like me, you're working with a big backyard, but maybe you got a small balcony, who knows? Well, Wayfair has everything for you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. So go ahead and grab a new patio dining set and some string lights from Wayfair to help extend your outdoor space. Legitimately, guys, I have string lights out in my backyard. It just changes the whole environment. I would encourage you to do the same. Get them from Wayfair. So whether you're entertaining guests or just relaxing solo on that outdoor space, shop Wayfair to help you unwind. I love the mix of styles that they have to offer. So no matter what your look or your vibe or feel is, they got you taken care of there. I also love that Wayfair has free delivery that's hassle-free, even for the bigger items of furniture. So it's great. Check it all out at Wayfair and shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online. This summer, get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. Again, that's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, Leif Thulin and I are back. We're drafting a fantasy team of players from the NBA Draft 2025. It's got to be guys that were in college last year. So far, Leif has a starting 1 through 3 of Walter Clayton, Cam Jones, and Cooper Flagg. So far, I have Dylan Harper and Trey Johnson. We've spent a lot of time in the backcourt. And so now we got to kind of turn our attention to the wing and the front court. And Leif, I think I'm going to go to the other bookend. I've debated in my mind. I want to go center next. I've gone back and forth between kind of 2 different style players. Kaman Malawach and Derek Queen is who I've been wrestling in my head. I actually think I love Kaman Malawach. I think he brings a lot to the table. He's going to be a lottery pick. I think Derek Queen is the more skilled big. And I think that he's going to be able to do more. And I think that will translate to what my team wants to do from a skill standpoint. I know Malawach would probably be a more imposing defensive presence. But hey, this is my fantasy team, and I want Derek Queen. So that's who I'm going to take as my 5.
I like it. I actually had this exact discussion on Locked On Wizards yesterday.
Really?
I was hosting that. And we talked about the ceiling as a draft prospect in the parameters of the NBA. So slightly different discussion in terms of application. But the question was, would you rather have a guy with more star power inherently in Derek Queen, who can be the offensive hub, or would you take someone who was considered raw, a little bit of a project in Malawach? However, his floor is super high because he's an amazing defender, right, and potentially can knock down shots. And I thought it was an interesting discussion. I do think Derek Queen was the better collegiate player, so I like that pick for you. But that's an interesting discussion of if you take a guy like Derek Queen, who is very good, over a first-team All-American like Janai Broom or guys like Kalkbrenner, people like that. So I think it becomes very interesting. I am going to go with Ryan Kalkbrenner with my next pick.
I like it. I thought about him as well. Yes.
To me, Kalkbrenner is the biggest asset to have defensively in college basketball because he doesn't foul. He rebounds the ball. He's got soft touch around the rim. He is a lob threat. He's not as good a vertical lob threat as Kaman Malawach was, but Cooper Flagg, Cam Jones, and Walter Clayton coming off screens give me someone to funnel the defense towards, and I can throw lobs to this guy. I can feed him in the post, and he can certainly anchor defense. He's the 4-time defensive player of the year in the Big East. So I'm going with Ryan Kalkbrenner. I know he's likely to be a second-round pick, but he will be drafted, and I like that pick, but I do have concerns as to what I'm doing next, though.
I know it's so interesting in a process like this, and just to take everyone behind the scenes, how each pick you take and how that starts to bring the identity of your team together then determines and changes who you go with next as you're picking. All right, Leif, let's go, man. Okay. Got a couple different places I was thinking about here. I'm going small forward, and I've been debating between two more guys that were freshmen this year. One is a teammate of one of your picks, and the other is a guy that
I know the exact two you're going with, and that's the same two I'm going with.
Who? Tell me who you're thinking. I promise I won't change if you say somebody that I'm not.
You're going either Ace Bailey or Con Knippel.
I was actually thinking Con Knippel, yes, or Liam McNeely instead of Bailey. Just like, again, going back to the production of it, I want a team that's ready to go right now, right? Like for the parameters of this, I think I would do Bailey more as like one of my bench players. And I know that seems odd, but that's kind of how I've been processing it. That said, I'm going Con Knippel. I think that Con Knippel, like one of my bold predictions ahead of this past season was that he was going to be Duke's leading scorer. And were it not for the otherworldliness of everything that Cooper Flagg does, I think Con Knippel would have been one of the most household names in America this year because he would have been Duke's stud. I loved how Cooper encouraged him throughout the year to step up and do what he needed to do. Con plays winning basketball in a multitude of ways. I like the things that he could do alongside of Derek Queen. I love the things that, like, thinking of him and Dylan Harper and Trey Johnson together, like, gets me giddy a little bit. And so give me Con Knippel as my 3.
Yeah, I was going to go with Con in the sense of he's already got great chemistry with Cooper Flagg. He's super dependable. He's a good rebounder. But what I have the luxury of is Cooper Flagg can play the 3 or the 4.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Cooper at the 4 and get myself some good size still and take Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey, there was a bit of a hoorah about him not being 6'10", but when you put on basketball shoes, his 6'7" and 3/4, whatever he came out to, adds up to 6'9". So my front court is 7'1" Kalkbrenner, Cooper Flagg at basically 6'9", Ace Bailey at 6'9", and then I have Walter Clayton and Cam Jones, who are not deficient in size for college basketball, but not enormous. So I'm not compromising size, and I certainly have a boatload of skill. Ace Bailey, to me, at the 3, is still a positional size check mark, can knock down shots at a very, very high clip, take some of the scoring load off other players, but also be the beneficiary of a tremendous offensive pieces everywhere else. Run some pick and roll with Kalkbrenner, get Ace Bailey on the weak side, wide open threes, and you just don't have many people who can match that size and skill. So I'm not mad that you took Con because I get a guy with Ace who's got more individual firepower, in my opinion, but I don't know if he's as plug and play as a tertiary option. However, talent's talent. I'm going with Ace Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, yes, one of the great shot makers that we've seen in a long, long time. Just needs the consistency, needs a little bit of a better handle, but good grief, dude, Ace Bailey. I can't wait to see what he develops into. And man, it's going to be great. Okay, basically with the way I've drafted with Con at the 3, Queen at the 5, I really do need to get more of a power forwardy 4 kind of guy. And so, you're looking at some guys, Colin Murray Boyles, Danny Wolf, some of those kind of things. Maybe you think about like a Yaxel Lendeborg or a Janai Broom or something like that. I think ultimately I really want the size and playmaking ability and somebody that we've seen already thrive in a 2-big system. I know he's a bit turnover prone, but I love Danny Wolf, man, and I just want him on my team. So I'm taking Danny Wolf as my starting power forward to form a front court with Derek Queen with Con Knippel at the 3.
I like it. I'm a little worried if I'm you about the defensive side of the ball. You got some bucket getters. You got Dylan Harper, Trey Johnson. I mean, Con's actually a solid defender, but you still wouldn't say you should be the best perimeter defender on a team. Derek Queen, I don't think it's as bad as he gets labeled with because he's, slower footed, but a combination of those two, obviously you have great size, but neither of those guys are prolific defensively. Right. So that's the combination. However, your offense would be potent.
That's right. My thought was we're going to go out here and try to outscore everyone. And so with my bench, I might need to look at some defensive options, potentially even like had I known what I had at 1 through 4 and I was picking my 5 last, maybe I take a Janai Broom who has a better defensive capability than Derek Queen does, for example. And that's what we're going to find out, folks, in just a second. Leif and I are going to round out our rosters with our 3 bench players each. Boy, I can't wait to see how this thing wraps up. It's a lot of fun. Stay with us. Okay, it's time to wrap up our fantasy draft of NBA draft players for 2025. Leif and I both have our starting 5s, and now we're going to add 3 bench players to the mix. As a reminder, Leaf starting 5, Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida, Cam Jones from Marquette, Ace Bailey from Rutgers, Cooper Flagg from Duke, and Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton. I have Dylan Harper from Rutgers, Trey Johnson from Texas, Con Knipple from Duke, Danny Will from Michigan, and Derek Queen from Maryland. Leaf, let's start off the bench. Who you taking?
I'm going to go with a spark plug, someone who could score a lot of buckets in a hurry off the bench. I'm trying to be judicious here because you're going to say, wait a minute, that's not a sleeper pick. However, in this role, I think he could really thrive as someone who's an energy guy, gets to the rim at will, good defender, and might be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. I'm going with VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah.
I see VJ Edgecombe, to me, I don't think is as good of a college basketball player as the 10 we've said prior.
Yeah.
However, I think situation had a lot to do with it. I also think he evolved a lot as a player. I was very critical of him early in the season. I don't think he was as good as many draft evaluators pretended he was early in the season because they saw him play very well for the Bahamas. That said, in this situation where I've got a team that can really shoot the basketball and you open up the paint for VJ Edgecombe, that's very advantageous. I think I just had to go with the best potential available here. And I think in roster construction, you slot him in, and I think you can get some actual 6-man appeal of the Energizer Bunny. So that's the GM and me thinking right there.
I like it. I like how that comes together. And that's the kind of spot for VJ Edgecombe. That's why I kind of flipped and went Trey Johnson instead of him earlier, is because it's like, yeah, VJ can come off the bench. Okay. I want to take a guy that one of my favorite players in all of college basketball this year. He's a big guard. He can do a little bit of everything. He's where he's staying at Illinois. He would be part of the Eastern Bloc. Give me Kasparas Jakucionis. I need him. Can you imagine having this dude coming off your bench, Leif Thulin? That's what I just got. I want Jakucionis. Strike it up.
I mean, I love Jakucionis as a pick and roll ball handler. He had over 200 pick and rolls as a freshman. That's pretty rare. I can't complain about that. That's a good pick. I'm going to go with a guy that I personally love, and I can't wait any longer. I'm going with Maxime Reynaud.
Yeah.
Maxime Reynaud was the second best player in the ACC behind Cooper Flagg, who's already on my team. Maxime Reynaud scored 20 points and 12 boards on a team that needed every bit of it. And at the end of the season, I listened to an interview on Locked On NBA Big Board where he discusses his evolution as a defender. He said, I just didn't want to foul for much of the season, but then I watched some tape and learned how to block shots. And if you look at his stats at the end of the season, he became a far better rim protector using that length. He shoots threes. He's got jump hooks with either hand. I think he's the most skilled big in the draft. Actually, he's just older, so it doesn't reflect as well. And I actually think he'll be a top 20, top 25 pick in the NBA draft, not just a college basketball darling. So my team is older, but I do think there's NBA upside for Reynaud, and he's on my Stanford Cardinal, so I got to get one of my guys.
That's right. You absolutely do need to get him. I love the pick. He was on my radar as somebody to take in this thing as well. I had to do a short for him the other day for Locked On something. And I said, I don't know how someone as big as he is could be as overlooked as he is, but I feel like that's how he was in college basketball this year, frustratingly so. And Leif, I love that you've continued to bang the drum of Maxime Reynaud this year. Well done. Okay. Earlier in the draft, I really debated at my center position whether I wanted Derek Queen or Kaman Malawach. I took Derek Queen, and now Kaman Malawach is still sitting there. As we talked about earlier, I need defense like man needs oxygen. And so I'm going to go ahead and take it. A lottery pick coming off my bench. Give me Kaman Malawach from Duke.
I mean, you're getting a lottery pick. You're getting a tremendous defender. And for the stats inclined people here, he's a 99th percentile play finisher in pick and rolls. So not too shabby there. Definitely no qualms here for that pick. And to round out this draft, I'm going to go with the guy who has thrived in many different roles in 2 different schools. He was once a role player, and then he played a supplementary, maybe a co-star, you'd say, and then this past season was a star and has shined brightly on the big stage. I'm going with a veteran presence in Neat Clifford. Someone who can play both sides of the ball. Did I really? I stole that one. I'm shocked.
That's
I
who
thought
I was
I
going
would
with.
be clever. Neat Clifford, to me, look, he's coming off the bench. I got to get some guy who's thrived playing a role before. We talk about like the way a team drafts, and my best example would be Mikal Bridges was selected at 8, I believe, to go to the Phoenix Suns and play defense and play a role, knock down threes. And he was the best in the NBA, arguably, at that exact role definition. That's exactly what he was at Villanova. So the reason for my draft here that I'm going with Neat Clifford is he's thrived in this role of being a supplementary piece who can knock down open shots, play great defense, is a tremendous rebounder. At 6'6", he gets 10 boards per game. He's playing my Josh Hart role. So I'm going with Neat Clifford.
Yeah, that's great. I love the pick. I love the pickup. Frustrating because I was going to get him. All right, this brings it to the last pick of the draft, and it's tough, Leif, because now it's like literally everyone's out there and I don't have to worry about you taking everyone else, but that means there's a whole sea and I can only grab one fish. I've thought about Yegor Demon, but I don't, with Jakucionis and Dylan Harper, I don't know that I need to round out in that way. I really liked Clifford. Jace Richardson's out there. Neither of us have picked Jeremiah Fears yet. Man, Colin Murray Boyles is sitting there. It's tough. All that said, I have supplemented my point guard position and my front court position. And, somebody else I had looked at as I was going between Con Knippel and Liam McNeely earlier. And I think I'm going to go with McNeely here. I love that he brings just some Danny Hurley attitude, like get off me. I don't need you. I know he had time out this year where people didn't really get to fully experience who he was, but I thought a full year healthy of Liam McNeely and UConn would have done some different things. I think he's going to bring swagger and phenomenal playmaking to wherever he is and going to be able to do some things well for my team. And he's coming off the bench. And so I like it. Give me Liam McNeely to round out this draft.
He's a guy that I thought was forced into a difficult role at UConn. He wasn't supposed to be the best player and became the best player. And the defenses and scouting reports came with it. And those responsibilities are difficult. I talked about Cam Jones carrying the way of the world. It wasn't quite so Atlas one-sided here. That's I'm the only chance at UConn. However, that's a role that's difficult to inherit for a freshman. I like that pick. It's similar to the vein of Neat Clifford in terms of does a lot, can knock down this three, play as a facilitator, can rebound. I like that. There's a couple guys that I think if I were drafting starters, I think have more potential than some of the second round, or I shouldn't say second round picks, but our bench picks. But I like where we went. At least the spirit of the game was we found people that fit the roles that we were looking for. So I appreciate that about a draft. You got to make the stipulations and stick to them. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely, Leif. I agree with you because it's not just about like if you're drafting a legit team, it's not just about the 5 best players. It's about the best group of 5, or in this case, group of 8. And so I like it. Another one I almost went with there, by the way, is Asa Newell. I thought long and hard about grabbing him, and I think he could have fit really well as well with what we were doing. Anybody else shocking to you that we didn't take there, Leif? I know it's limited because we only took 16 dudes, but still.
Yeah, the biggest one that I think was an omission, and probably on my own part more than anyone, is Janai Broom, because he was the second best player in college basketball this past year. But in an NBA style draft, I know we're saying for college basketball, we're prioritizing size and spacing a lot. And I think Broom isn't as big as the guys we took. So the fact that I went with Flagg as my 4 in an era of college basketball where there's a lot of bigs, I needed someone longer, a little bit taller. So And I've for the sake of things, and this is just a shameless plug, because I've been telling you and Andy for the last couple of years, I think Kalkbrenner is the most underrated player in college basketball. I've been very consistent in banging that drum. And then I think the other most underrated player in college basketball is Maxime Reynaud. So I was kind of following my own personal agenda. I told you guys before the season he should be an All-American, and he put up 20 and 12 and was excellent and was not even voted. So I definitely was banging my own agenda there. But you know what? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yes, it is. Leif, do you know how many? I know the answer to this because I looked it up the other day. Do you know how many other players in Division I had averaged a 20 and 10 double-double this year?
Zero.
He was the only one. It's insane.
I'm the king of the Maxime Reynaud propaganda train. I had to know that one.
And as well you did, my man. This was a fun draft. Folks, we'd love to know your thoughts on the draft, where we went wrong, what we got right, and what you would have done differently or similar to us. Thanks so much for being here with us. Leif, man, always great to be together. I appreciate you and love getting to do this. If you've not subscribed to the show on YouTube and audio, folks, make sure you do that right now. If you haven't joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord, man, we'd love to see you in there. That link is in the show notes, and it's absolutely free to join. Yeah, we're doing that for you. As always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Pope. Shouts to McBruins. And until tomorrow, peace.